For 4.5 millennia, the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx have stood as the ultimate symbols of ancient engineering. But according to a new theory circulating online, what we see above the sound is only a portion of the site. An Italian research team, led by radar engineer Filippo Biondi, recently announced an 80% confidence level that a second, identical Sphinx is buried nearby. This diagram shows how Biondi's team mapped the plateau and identified a geometric correlation. By drawing a mirrored line from the existing Sphinx across the complex, they point to a 108-foot mound of sand where they believe its twin is currently hiding. The team also claims the second Sphinx is covering an entrance. They believe it sits on top of a vast, unexcavated subterranean network of tunnels stretching directly toward the Khafre Pyramid. If accurate, a massive underground complex would suggest a level of pre-planned engineering that challenges existing theories about the Old Kingdom's construction capabilities. The theory's foundation is the Dream Stele, a granite slab between the Sphinx's paws. It depicts two mirrored sphinxes above geometric vertical patterns. Historians view this as religious symbolism, but researchers argue it's a literal blueprint and cross-section diagram of the hidden underground tunnels. To prove this literal interpretation, the team used satellite radar scans to trace the stele's depictions against the actual geography of the Giza mounds. The question now is whether the stele is an ancient map we are finally decoding, or a religious metaphor we are misinterpreting through modern technology. To test their theory, the team relied on ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. GPR is a method that uses radar pulses to image the subsurface, detecting buried objects or changes in material without having to dig. Biondi's team took the data from their GPR scans and applied an unconventional methodology. They converted the returning radar signals into sound waves, using audio frequencies to build a visual map of the structures buried below. This graphic illustrates their claims. By bouncing signals through the rock, they mapped clean, geometric voids, identifying them as shafts forming an underground city. They point to a debris-filled entrance between the Sphinx and Khafre Pyramid, which could grant access to deeper levels. Researchers envision the Giza complex as a single, interconnected engineering project. Here, each surface monument functions as part of a much larger subterranean system. But when these claims hit the internet, the mainstream scientific community pushed back aggressively. Theoretical physicist Sabine Hossenfelder specifically targeted the team's methodology. She criticized how they analyzed their tomography images. Tomography is the process of creating a two-dimensional cross-section of a 3D object using penetrating waves, like radar. This chart shows actual radar data, which generates massive random noise from rock formations. Hossenfelder notes the Italian team cherry-picked a few specific points, drawing a line between them to fit their theory, while completely ignoring the surrounding static. Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, Dr. Zahi Hawass, stepped in to compare Biondi's claims against official, scientifically approved scans of the exact same area. Hawass stated that exhaustive, validated research on the plateau reveals nothing resembling a megastructure. Official scans show only small, naturally occurring voids in the limestone. Advanced scanning tools are powerful, but if you bypass the scientific method, you can easily use them to manufacture false realities out of thin air. The reason these theories catch fire online comes down to a psychological phenomenon called pareidolia. This is the human brain's natural tendency to find organized patterns, like faces or buildings, in completely random data. Today, the rapid increase in accessible scanning technology allows rogue researchers to run their own tests, find a pattern in the static, and present that pareidolia as fact directly to the public on podcasts. These stories are appealing because they satisfy a deep human desire for mystery. We live in an era where the entire globe is mapped by satellites, making the idea of a massive, hidden city feel like a rare connection to a lost past. But zooming in on a digital radar map offers instant results, which stands in stark contrast to the slow, physical reality of actual archaeological excavation. True historical discovery rarely happens by finding patterns in static on a screen. It requires the methodical, grueling labor of proving those patterns exist in the dirt. While the internet debates ghost structures at Giza, physical digging continues to yield actual breakthroughs in the Nile Valley. A research team from the University of Toulouse recently excavated hundreds of tombs dating back to before the pyramids. In tomb S-166, they uncovered the remains of a teenage girl whose left arm had been ritually severed and placed across her chest. Her body was perfectly aligned to face the setting sun at the winter solstice. These meticulously documented discoveries provide hard evidence that early Egyptian religious practices, including their burial rituals, were deeply and physically tied to celestial events and agricultural cycles. As digital scanning tools become cheaper and more widespread, the volume of heavily edited viral archaeological claims will only continue to grow. The sands of Egypt still hold plenty of secrets. Uncovering them just requires separating the slow, deliberate truth of human history from the alluring mirage of cherry-picked data.